Welcome back to the show. This is Real Talk with me, Nick, keeping you guys company and entertained all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. We're on the final stretch of the show. We're talking about all things related right now in the world. What is going on in the world, rather? And one of this that we're talking about is also the green light for net zero equivalent for nature. Yeah, that's right. So the government has promised to halt the decline of nature as part of a new drive to improve the environment. That's right. That's what they are talking about. And yeah, they're just saying all these things. And they said all this drive to improve the environment. So more trees are to be planted, and the sale of peat will be banned, and new targets will be set to return species such as wildcats and beavers to the countryside. So yeah, the measures include a legally binding 2030 target to address wildlife loss. So yeah, the Environment Secretary George Eustace described the move as a huge step forward. And yeah, he's saying, this is a great step forward in a speech from Delamere Forest in Cheshire. He said this, and he said, well, we hope that this will be the net zero equivalent for nature. And yeah, that's what he's saying. And it's spurring action of the scale required to address the biodiversity crisis. So yeah, the legally binding target will apply to England only, with devolved administrations able to set their own policies. So yeah, wildlife groups have welcomed the proposal as an important milestone. So Richard Benwell, the CEO of Wildlife and Countryside Link, a coalition of 57 nature groups, said if the legal detail is right and the targets are comprehensive and science-based, then this could inspire the investment and action needed to protect and restore wildlife after a century of decline. I mean, think about it. When you look at the situation, this is the kind of thing that we want to do right now. We are trying to bring it forward to such a point that we're able to get and showcase all these issues right now in the UK. This is just one of the issues that is being addressed and being discussed on. So like I said, all of this is the government are set out, new proposals to protect England's peatlands as part of a drive to achieve its goal of bringing greenhouse gas emissions to zero overall. And this is all known as the net zero by 2050. That's right, 2050 is the time that the government right now wants to bring it down. So its plan is to ban sales of peat compost to gardeners in England by 2024 and provide funding to restore 35,000 hectares. That's essentially 86,000 acres of degraded peat in the next 4 years. And that's about 1% of the UK's total. So healthy peatland plays an important role in storing carbon, 3 times as much as forests. However, peatlands damaged by draining, planting with trees, or farming lead and start to leak carbon, contributing to the greenhouse gas emissions problem. So only a fifth of the UK's 2.6 million hectares, which is 64 million acres of peat, are in good condition. So yeah, estimates suggest the habitat, which ranges from upland moors to rich agricultural lowland, could give off as much as 23 million tons of carbon emissions a year. So yeah, the Wildlife Trust's chief executive Greg Bennett said the government's initial target to restore 35,000 hectares of peatland was disappointing and called for a commitment to restore all these upland peatland and all of at least a quarter of the lowland peatland as well. And he said, it is essential that we stop nature's decline and restore 30% of the land and sea by 2030. Doing so will help wildlife fight back and enable repaired habitats to store carbon once more. So yeah, the Wildlife Trust said it could be embarrassing for the UK as hosts of the Key Climate Summit in Glasgow in November. In case you guys don't know what that is all about, well, it's the COP26. That's right. That's going to be happening in November. The plan is, to get all the countries, the essential countries, down to talk about the climate change problems in the nation. Yeah, it's just some of the things that they will be addressing as they move on. Hopefully, but with the situation right now in Glasgow, when you think about it, I hope that this is not going to be pushed back. There are fears and there have been talks about a possible pushback. Hopefully, this is not something that will happen, and even if it does, this is something that's really needed at the moment. So this is just something that they are talking about. They're saying how it's going to be embarrassing. It's going to cause a scenario, especially for the UK's part. It's going to be embarrassing when they bring such issues. They're going to allow these carbon-rich peats to be dug up and sold. It's going to be embarrassing, especially when it comes down to the COP26. So peatland is important for carbon sequestration and for wildlife. And currently we're wrapping it in plastic, selling it to garden centers. And this is what Elian Chapman Jones has said. Yeah, so this is what he was trying to talk about. Greg Bennett also spoke about all of these issues. And when you think about the percentage of the UK covered in woodland, well, back in 1905, it was just 4.7% compared to now, which is 13.1%. That is 2019, the statistics. So yeah, the government has also plans to triple the tree planting rates in England to 7,000 hectares of new woodland a year by 2024. So yeah, there will also be funding to provide incentives for landowners and farmers to plant and manage trees in at least 3 communities. Forests will be created. So yeah, the plan to treble tree planting rates in England by 2024 sounds like an awful lot, but it is starting from a very low level. So yeah, we look at the previous tree planting pledges made by various parties at the last general election. So tree planting is a devolved issue. So there are different policies across the UK. So at least 3 communities forests will be created as part of the New England Trees Action Plan, but the government's UK-wide goal is for 30,000 hectares of trees, to essentially be planted annually by 2024. That's a big margin for the UK to be even considering. I'm glad, that we are setting our goals really higher at the moment. And this is something that we need as a community. This is the positive step forward. This is what we are supposed to be doing since the beginning, and now we're actually doing it. And it's great to see that they're doing this. So that means, most of this planting will still be of non-native trees on commercial conifer plantations in Scotland, which deliver fewer benefits for wildlife and biodiversity. So yeah, the government hopes to increase tree cover from 10% to 12% total land area in England, and the aim is to increase the UK-wide figure to 17% by 2050. That's right. It's essential to help the country reach net zero carbon emissions, and the average tree cover across the rest of Europe is about 35% of land area. So yeah, the UK's target, and England's in particular, is actually quite modest if you think about it. So Abby Bunker, the director of conservation and external affairs at the Woodland Trust, said the UK's land cover had nearly tripled since 1900s, but much of the increase has been low diversity forestry plantation. So they said although there has been a lot of increase in planting, it's not as high, upland planting that we needed. It's mostly got to do with low diversity forestry plantations. So Abby further went to say that native woods and trees are fragmented and at risk from development, and too many are in poor conditions, while with half of the UK wildlife and plant species that depend on this woodland are in decline. So yeah, government target for woodland should be met by integrating the UK sourced and grown native trees into our landscapes, helping to deliver for nature and people. So this is just why there's such a big crisis right now at the moment, and why the government right now is considering this. But it's great to see though that the initiative step is on the positive light, the positive direction. We are moving towards your step where we are actually taking this serious. I'm proud to say that this is all part of the plan. Like I was speaking about earlier, how we're trying to reduce all the single use of these straws and plastics and all of that. It's just a positive step forward, the kind of step that we need to move forward as a country, as a nation, towards a better future. We got to cut down we got to cut down on all of this. So 2050, we can reach the net zero that was planned for. Hopefully, this is something that can be achieved, and this is something that will be achieved. Hopefully, that will bear fruition as well. And this is just some of the things that we can expect as it goes by. 2025, the plan is to cut down 50% of single-use plastics, and this is just another step forward also as well. Forestry, reforesting, afforestation is what we need as well. Hopefully by the time we do get into the by the time we get to the COP26 summit, this is something that we can be discussing as it comes along. But with that being said, we're gonna be taking a real quick break before we come back for the final stretch of the show. All right, and so check this out. Welcome back to the show. This is our Relax Radio. We're in the final stretch of it. And hey, guys, you guys are wondering who this is. My name is Nick. Keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. We're talking about all things that is happening right now in the UK. And yeah, one of the big things, the biggest topics that is being discussed is the UK foreign aid cut. Where does it go and what is it used for? That is, the thing that we're talking about right now is it's crazy, man. When you think about it, the UK's temporary cutting back of money, and it gives, it's been always a very altruistic country. If you think about it, the UK has always been a very giving country. But in situation like this, what they've done is they've been cutting back the money they give to the other countries in moves, which some charities say will harm poor communities around the world, and they're saying this is, it's outrageous for them to even be cutting. But you have to understand right now the situation with what is happening in the country. We have to, like I always say, invest in the country at the moment because we'll be able to donate more, and they got a significant share rather of the amount of money that they've been donating to countries. So the government says, the impact of this whole pandemic on the UK's finances mean there has to be a temporary reduction in foreign aid. So yeah, the target for foreign aid spending has usually been 0.7% of the gross national income, but that will be cut down to 0.5%, which will be around £4 billion less. So, but what is the money actually used for? Is what the government is asking. So, and the people are asking. Well, in 2020, Britain spent 14.5 billion on billion pounds rather on aid, meeting the 0.7% target. This is all according to provisional data. And there's always been debate over the UK's aid spend, with some people saying the UK shouldn't be helping people overseas while cutting services at home. So they argue problems of poverty and inequality are being fueled by conflict, corruption, and political instability, which makes foreign aid worthless, is what they're saying. And others say it's a mark of the UK's generosity and helps address the difference in wealth between developed and developing countries, helping to save lives. So what is this whole foreign aid issue? Well, in its most basic, very, very basic definition, foreign aid is essentially foreign aid is resources given from one country to another. That's the whole layman textbook definition. So it can involve a transfer of things like food or military equipment, or even people to provide training and medical help. So there's usually are loans by governments, organizations, and individuals in richer countries to help people in poor countries. So an example would be the UK sending £200 million to help developing nations battle coronavirus. This is just one instance of it. When you think about it, the issue in India as well. We donated a lot of ventilators, we donated oxygen, and we donated money as well. So there are different types of aids, such as emergency or short-term aid, which is needed after sudden disasters such as earthquakes, floodings, or tsunamis. So yeah, conditional or tied aid is when one country donates money or resources to another, but with conditions attached. For example, a trade deal. This is another famous way to very popular way to talk about it is a trade deal. So when there's a condition where we say, okay, we're going to scratch your back, but under one condition. Well, this is what they call a trade deal. So this is just an example of a trade deal. So there's also, aid funded by donations from public through charities such as Children in Need. So yeah, long-term or development aid involves providing local communities with education skills. So just thinking about it, money shared through international organizations such as the World Bank or UN, rather than one specific country, is called multilateral aid. So where does all of these aid go? The question, where does all this money go? Where does this aid fund actually go? Well, overall, the top 5 countries receiving UK aid were Pakistan, Ethiopia, Afghanistan, Yemen, and Nigeria, with almost all the money going to countries in Africa and Asia. So 2019, the UK spent £1.5 billion on humanitarian assistance, which is short-term help in immediate crisis, mostly in Yemen, Syria, and Bangladesh. So this is what the statistics has been showing. Statistics around the world show this. So around £1.4 billion was spent on health projects, including medical research, family planning, and infectious disease control globally. So the UK has been spending a lot of money for international aid, foreign aid. So the temporary reduction, though, there will be costs across, there's going to be cuts across the whole of UK when it comes to this, and the impact will be profound and very damaging, particularly for the poor people, says Professor Guy Howard, an expert in international development from the University of Bristol. So yeah, the UN Population Fund, which supports the family planning, says an initial commitment by the UK to spend 154 million pounds on supplies this year will shrink to 23 million pounds. And yet there'll also be a huge drop in funding to the UN's Children Fund. This is what UNICEF. For UNICEF, they're not going to be receiving the fund that they usually receive, and the funding for things like water, sanitation, and hygiene projects will reportedly be cut by more than 80%. Professor Howard feels cutback aid from a pure core public health areas seems odd, so he wants to refers to cuts in waters and sanitation because that's the foundation of public health. This is our fundamental right, people's fundamental right, and when you take away these. When you cut these aids for these kind of things, that's and it's vital, especially with dealing with a lot of these different diseases. It's important. That's what they're trying to say. These are the fundamental rights as humans. Well, we often forget, like when you think about it, 1,000 children a day die of diarrhea because of poor water sanitation. It's a very unfortunate circumstance when you look at countries like in Africa, in Asia, there where water is not, is a luxury. When you think about it, people like them think water is a luxury because when you think about it, there's poor sanitation, there's poor water, there's poor hygiene. Water is not clean as it's supposed to be. So it's an important goal, in its own right. Professor Howard has been saying. But what COVID has shown us is just how important water supply is in combating the disease. So if you have to collect water from a shared water point, social distancing will be virtually impossible. So what does the government say all about this? So what the government is saying is as the amount of the UK donates is a percentage of the national income. This is just part of it, and they are talking. The amount of money it spends on foreign aid would have been less this year, even before the cut was announced. That's because the economies got smaller during the pandemic. But Professor Howard says the decision to cut 0.2% makes it an even more difficult situation for countries which receive the aid. So yeah, several countries have met the 0.7 UN aid target, including Denmark, Luxembourg, Norway, and Sweden, according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. But many others don't hit the target. That's right, and Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab said changes reflected a strategic shift in UK aid spending. So yeah, a spokeswoman rather from the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office told recently that reducing spend was a tough but necessary decision because when we think about it, this is something that we need to do right now for our country to progress. I mean, foreign aid is very important. It's not like we're cutting foreign aid completely. We're not cutting it off completely. We're not cutting off the foreign aid to all the other nations. And what we're doing right now is we're cutting off the aid temporarily, a set amount. This is how much we're cutting. 80% we're cutting. Yes, it's not great, but the situation is dire in the UK as well. And we got to get our economy back to the standard, where it was before. And to do that, we have to invest in the country first. That's the whole thing. It's a very tough. That's why she said it's a very tough but necessary decision. And the government's committed to returning to 0.7% once the financial situation allows it. So more than £1 billion will be spent on COVID and global health, and £500 million towards tackling climate change, and $400 million on getting girls into education. These are all important aspects when you think about it. These are very important avenues that we need to touch on. So more, like I said, much of this humanitarian aid budget will be focused on countries more at risk, of famine such as Yemen, Syria, Somalia, and South Sudan. So this is just a part of all of this. And when like I said, all of this is a necessary goal that they need to achieve. The country needs to achieve to get forward, to get it moving back to in a positive light. Because if we invest in other countries other than our own right now, what we're going to do is we're going to set a problem. We need to set right now. The bar is high when you think about it. All of this is a situation, the country needs to develop. Nobody planned, like I said, nobody ever expected something like this to happen. Nobody wanted the whole coronavirus pandemic to occur. But then Now it's happened. We can't really stop it. It's here. It's on our doorstep. It's knocking, and we need to find a way to tackle it. And best way right now, what the UK is doing, although we're cutting the fundings for financial aid and for all of that international aid, what we're doing is we didn't cut it off completely. We cut off a temporary amount, a set amount. Yes, the majority of the money that we used to spend is not 0.7 anymore, 0.2. But what we're doing is we're taking that 5%, 0.5%, and we're investing it in healthcare. We're investing it in getting, infrastructure. All of this is very important right now for the UK, for our people to develop, to move forward from this pandemic. And like I said, to do that, we need to stick together. We need to invest right now in the country. Once our finances get back, once the economy get back. See, I agree. A lot of people say, these countries will be suffering, especially now with the coronavirus pandemic happening. It is horrible. It is not the greatest of situations, but we are put in a crisis where we have to decide whether what we're going to do will affect us as well. Because if we get affected to a point where we cannot recover financially, economically, well, then it will affect the future benefits of, future international aids as well. And this is just, another step that we need to do. We need to process this. This is something that is unavoidable. It's inevitable. In other words, this is inevitable. We need to focus on the country at this moment. At this point, this is a very vital situation. And like I said, for us to do that, we have to invest in the country. And once we do this, we invest in these infrastructures, in healthcare. We can make sure that once, another pandemic or something, hopefully, God forbid, another one comes. But if it does, we will be prepared for this. So we won't face another crisis like this again. And we won't be affected by, we won't affect our finances, our economy, and our, economically we will be stable. And this is just some of the things that we are trying to prevent, as hopefully in the future, something that will be happening. But with that being said, it is about that time for me to head on out of here, And I'll catch you guys again tomorrow. Same time, same place, only here on Relax Radio, right until from 3 to 6, only on Real Talk. With that, my name is Nick, and I'm out of here. Peace and much love.